Good evening. How the devil are you all? Welcome along. It is I, Chris, and my little friend here, Mini-Me. Hoping you are well. Looking back with my new regular co-host here on a Monday for the review show. Some people know him as Harry, but of course it's Dave, and that I don't count that one because that was a proper one I meant to do. But it is the review show. We're going to be looking back at the news, the results, and it's been quite an interesting weekend. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Good evening.
It's time! Strap yourself in, because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts. Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
And now, here's your host.
Right, Chris.
All right there. Look, can you believe this time next week, that's it, we're taking the break for the World Cup. I'm just going to have to ask my little mini-me here, just go and get yourself ready, because when we talk about the World Cup, you know what you've got to wear. So, but yeah, it's going to be like 5 weeks off. It's almost as exciting as Chris Moyles in I'm a Celebrity. Mini-me's got changed. Here he is, ready for the World Cup. What can I say? And I do feel like I should have introduced my guest this evening in Top Gear style. You know, some people think he's Harry, but we know it's the Stig. But I can't do the voice. But let's welcome him in. Let's get rid of Mini-Me and let's say hello, Dave.
Hi, Chris. You right?
I'm not so bad. Not so bad. How are you?
Yeah, fine. Thanks, mate. Bit wet and windy, but
for myself to download the I'm a Celebrity app because you get 5 free votes, and that's going to Hancock for every bloody trial. Nobody better vote him out. I'm telling you now. Keep him in until at least we stop voting for the trials. But yeah, so this time next week it's all over for till Christmas.
yeah. Well, you know my view. It's all wrong, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, but then again, you know, we know allegedly, but well, not even allegedly, we know how corrupt everything is. It shouldn't be happening. You know,
but it is.
You've got to be logical, like I said, and I'm all for giving some countries that haven't had football the chance to, you know, experience it and host it and what have you. I went to South Africa, as you can see from the top, a couple of years ago. Did a safari, and before we started, we did a tour of Johannesburg. We went and looked at Nelson Mandela's house and all that, and the guy pulled up to show me the World Cup stadium. The stadium that actually hosted the World Cup final. And as I looked at it there was this stadium all covered in weeds and moss and you know, graffiti. And literally you turn just to your right like that, and there was Soweto and all the, you know, the tin shacks and housing and what have you. And you're thinking, what legacy is that given? This so-called, like we're giving these countries like a legacy to build, but it's not happening.
No, it never will, because you've got corrupt governments. It's the same, you know, if we give, talking about the climate change at the moment, aren't they? If we compensate the lesser countries because we had the industrial age, it's not going to go to the people. excuse me. It's going to go to the government officials and for their parties, and that's the way life is.
It is. Unfortunately, you are spot on there. And I don't think why should we pay? I mean, all right, we can say to them, we'll give you another 20 years to sort it out, but we shouldn't be paying them, surely, But hey, James is in. Good evening, James. How are you? 2-0. 2-0. That's all I'm saying, James. That's all I'm saying. Hit the likes and subscribe, please do. We're over the 1,500, so I'm chuffed about that. I wanted to get there for the World Cup, but we need, because we always manage to lose some with YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Right, so let's have a look. It's been quite a busy weekend. First of all, what a weird season. I mean, I thought we'd had a few weird seasons with COVID and what have you, but, anybody's beating anybody this season.
I'd like to think it's because the standard's getting better and all teams are improving. But from what I saw over the weekend, and I must confess I didn't watch every game in detail, but the defending is getting terrible.
Oh.
I mean, I thought Leicester's defending was bad in the first 7 odd games.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I was watching last week, Fulham, and loads of teams just giving the ball away all the time, not picking up. I mean, Spurs, they were terrible. They weren't marking. They weren't doing anything.
No.
I mean, Alexander-Arnold should have given away a penalty.
That should have been a penalty. I do not know how that wasn't.
He didn't, but that was an error in midfield, and this is where we lose sight sometimes because the errors are made up the field, and the defenders have to deal with it. Even Leicester, I mean, Everton should have been 1 up after 8 minutes or something like that. When Amati and Amati, Samare, wasn't it?
Your favourite player.
To be fair, on Friday I said he had a decent game.
You
last
did.
Week, and he
did.
did.
I have saved that clip, by the way, just for future use.
And he did yesterday, Saturday. But
I did a watch along yesterday. We will come on to the games obviously in a second, but I did a watch along for the Spurs Liverpool game, and I could not believe that I was watching 2 of the so-called Big Six.
No.
Giving the ball away. Marking was absolutely awful. How Mo Salah got, I think it was about the first and possibly the second as well goal when he's been surrounded by Spurs players. And every time they got a break and go on, it was like, oh, Spurs are going down now. And they passed it to a Liverpool player. And it's Liverpool. No, he's passed it back to a Spurs player. But I just think, like you say, maybe defending is an old art that we will not see the likes of again. Who knows?
Do you reckon we've suddenly want these playmakers coming out the back 4, passing it about, but there's nobody there who can stick the head in, the boot in, or anything like that? And you're right; those days have gone, apart from Woot. I mean,
you're not allowed to these days, are you? I mean, I've said it a few times. On ITV4, Big Match Revisited. It's they're knocking 7 bells out of each other.
But Woot seems to be able to take the ball first, and if the man's there in the way, fine. He's a good, solid, old-fashioned defender, I reckon, and that's why Leicester have not let many goals in just lately.
No, and hopefully he won't get too many red cards.
No, I don't think so. I think his timing is pretty impressive, and he's fast enough to actually get there first anyway. I just don't think he'll be shoved about.
Indeed.
I do worry for Evans now, to be honest.
Well, I think he'll be back tomorrow night, if I'm honest with you. We'll see. But I want to talk about this guy first of all. It broke on Sunday while we were doing the Tottenham Spurs watch along. He's had a charmed life, really, and in fairness, well done because the Southampton board did stick with him, but they haven't really backed him, have they? And when you sack a manager, and I feel this is why, and I'll talk about my BBC page later, but I cover it in that. If an owner's not backing a manager, how can you sack him for not doing the job well?
Well, it depends the discussions that have taken place, isn't it? It's like we were talking about Brendan Rodgers. If you know the situation, you have to make the best of it. They've got a lot of good youngsters coming through. But I was listening on the way home down here to BBC Solent a few weeks ago when we were going through a bad time. And a lot of the Saints fans were on there and the commentators, and they're all saying the same. He's had plenty of time. He's had lots of chances. The football's not good. The players that should be playing well are not playing for him anymore. And I thought, God, this could have been Leicester they're talking about. And it was very similar situation. And Brendan's pulled it round, fortunately. But Saints were pretty poor, weren't they? Against a decent Newcastle side, I know, but they were pretty poor.
I think there's a lot of, already a lot of teams that will struggle against Newcastle.
Yes.
But I think he's a good manager. And sometime when Brendan was being discussed as moving on, I was asked a lot, would I take him at Leicester? And in fairness, I possibly would have done at the time.
Yeah.
But like you say, we now know, Dave, with the Leicester situation, and I think Top has proved maybe he knows more than all the rest of us fans put together. He was unable, not that he didn't want to, he was unable to back Brendan in the market and bring players in. And maybe that's why he's kind of saying, hang on, it's not fair for me to sack him when I've not been able to support him, because, any employee that's not doing well, you have to look and see if you are doing everything you can to help that person do the job.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing was Southampton, didn't they sack some of his staff at the start of the season, was it, or in the summer? He didn't get rid of them. I think the club did. So that's an interesting, if you were manager and somebody did that
as well, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's all changed completely. So maybe they forgot to tell Ralph that
Yes.
things weren't as good as he thought they were.
I mean, and yet you've got there, as you can see, Luton boss. He's in talks. Luton have allowed him. They've said that, in fairness, Southampton have gone around it, the right way and everything. Fair play to them. They're giving Luton they're giving Southampton a chance to speak to Jones. And I always think it's a bit of a two-edged sword, because do you remember when we went mad when Mark McGee walked out on us to go to Wolves?
Yeah, I do.
And yet we didn't say anything when he walked out on us at Reading to come to us.
Yeah.
Very much. But I feel sorry for Luton, because I've got a lot of time for Luton. I think they're a good little club, and I would have loved to have seen them come up. No disrespect to Forest, but I would have loved to have seen them come up through the playoffs this year.
Yeah, he's a decent manager, isn't he? He's been there a couple of times, hasn't he? Did he have a little moment at Stoke or somewhere?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I think he did, and then he went back to Luton, and he's done all right. But it's all grass is always green a bit again, isn't it? The QPR manager turned down the Wolves job.
Yes.
Then had a couple of bad results, but I think generally it's the right thing. You look how many managers have actually moved on upwards, and ended up with nothing. I can think of one Chelsea manager at the moment who's probably a bit concerned.
But if you're a manager, right, and Watford come knocking on your door, I'll use Watford as the prime example of this, and they say, Dave, you've done really well at Bognor. We want you to come to Wolves. We want you to come to Watford and take over. And you sit there thinking, I've been here 5 or 6 years now, but, still not a secure job. No manager's job is secure. But I might only be at Watford for 6 months, the way Watford are. But I'm going to get a big payoff, so what does it matter?
Well, that's the thing, the payoff. I asked a load of my mates, why would he want to go to Chelsea? And they said, well, you get a big payoff when you're sacked.
Yeah,
And
I'd
that
walk
really,
into another job.
yeah, that's the truth of it, isn't it?
Mm.
Graham Potter will get a job anywhere.
Well, I saw an interview, and I can't remember where I saw it. I think it must have been linked to a Leicester page or site or whatever. They were interviewing Nigel Pearson, and they said to him about going to Watford, and he said, I knew what I was going into, and he alluded to the fact that I knew I was going to get a good payoff if it all went tits up.
But yeah, I mean, they've had some quality managers, haven't they?
They have. They've had a lot of managers. And James is in the chat with us. And he's saying he would tell Watford to bugger off. See, I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, depending where I was, there's certain clubs you wouldn't leave. Say, for example, Everton, you wouldn't leave from Everton through choice to go to Watford, but you would leave Forest Green, you would leave Rochdale, etc., etc. You know that if you do a bad job and they sack you, that there's no stigma because people will go, it's just Watford, But they'll also be going like, well, here's your payoff. Here's £1 million or so quid payoff. And you'll be in another job in a couple of weeks.
I agree with James actually up to a point because, I better the devil you know almost. And you get too many of those sackings on your CV. Eventually, it hits the wall and stays there. I don't know. Although, if you say no, do you ever get another chance?
Well, this is what I was saying about Graham Potter. How do you turn down Chelsea? Because if you turn them down and things go sour at Brighton, suddenly you're not the flavour of the week anymore. You might not get another chance. But the interesting thing, because obviously James Everton fan, we played them, we beat them, etc. But the two managers in situ there were two of the favourites to go at the start of the season.
Well, I think Frank might still be. I worry for Everton. I really do. I think they were poor. We told how great we were, but I think Everton were pretty poor. The ball movement was bad, distribution was poor. Defensively, they didn't seem to know what they were doing, and that's a worry when you're at home with those fans. I mean, you've been up there, haven't you, Goodison? I mean,
no, I've never been.
I tell you, the first time I ever went was. I think it was a cup game against Man United. My uncle was a Man United director at the time, sadly, and we went up there. The atmosphere was awesome, but I went up with Leicester. I think we got beat pretty easy, to be honest. But it was like Stoke on a bad day. That kind of atmosphere. So for the team, they shouldn't need G'ing up or anything.
No, but is it? I mean, we'll come on to the game later because it's interesting to see. And remind me to ask you this: were Everton that bad, or did we just not let them be good? But I mean, I couldn't believe it when I read this. The Argentine Cup final ends early after there's 10 red cards. I mean, if that was this country, the game would be abandoned. But
we'd be banned from Europe, wouldn't we?
Well, yes, it probably would be. Apparently, there were 7 Boca players were dismissed, including 2 on the bench, with Racing leading 2-1 when the game was stopped. Rules state a match cannot continue if a team has fewer than 7 players. So it stopped, and the result stands. But can you imagine, like you said, if that happened in this country?
No. Boca have got a bad reputation anyway, haven't they? I think, and I assume they were losing. Yeah, did you say?
Yeah, Boca were losing. Yeah, Racing 1-2-1.
Racing were winning. Yeah. I don't know what happened, but I got a feeling somebody was celebrating in front of the Boca fans or something like that. So they did a Gary Neville, and it all kicked off from there, I think.
Well, it says here, Carlos Alcaraz, 118th minute winner in San Luis. San Luis was the flashpoint for the major incident when he celebrated in front of the Boca fans. Right. The Boca players surrounded him, grabbing him by the ear, and throwing the ball at him. So yeah,
Yeah.
he probably should have known better, you know.
Well, if 118th minute winner is it the cup final? You know, you don't really think too much where the crowd are, do you?
No.
But I think that it's typical football in that continent. You know,
they are a bit fiery, to say the least, shall we say?
And there's no control at all. There's no, you know, referee control or anything.
And if you upset them too much, they just bite you. Doug, how are you doing? I mean, Doug, I hope I have educated you. Doug was on his channel earlier. He's going through Group 1 of the World Cup, and he said that he didn't know any well-known guitar players. And I said, well, Carlos Santana, Jimi Hendrix, there's Eric Clapton. How many guitar players do you need? Oh, that was worth repeating.
That wouldn't have worked with Brad, would it? What did he call him?
Carter or something.
Quarter.
Yeah.
Get Carter.
But I thought that was.
Oh no!
But it did actually, unfortunately, it did fly over Doug's head. James is saying, remember Sheffield United, West Brom? Yeah, I do. The Battle of Bramall Lane. It does remind me that there's the accusation there that Neil Warnock was telling his players to get sent off so that the game could be cancelled.
I don't think that was an accusation, was it? That was a fact.
Well, I'm thinking of my lawyers. Remember,
that's a Warnockism. Yeah.
Portugal-Holland was a disgrace because the referee, and he's come out and said it since, was determined not to send a player off and not let it to ruin the game. But that should have been like a five-a-side match.
There was one many years earlier, the Battle of Bern. I don't know whether you remember that one. It was the World Cup, Switzerland. Was it Hungary and somebody? And it was all hell kicked off. And the press got involved. The press invaded the pitch. Yeah, seriously. I mean, can you imagine that? Oh, what's his name from the Telegraph running on and smacking somebody?
But, there was a game, and again, I don't know where this was, but this was I don't know if it's the same incident, but it was an Arab nation, and the sheikh was there in the stand, and the decision went against it, and the sheikh went down over the manager's head and pulled the team off. I think they were playing Tunisia, and I can't remember whether it was a Middle Eastern country, and he came down and called the players off because he didn't like the decision. I mean, weird. But we've got Doug and Brian's in. Good evening, Brian. How are you? Okay, now look, let's be honest, and I've got to be honest with you, Doug. Don't do another watch along, because obviously when you do a Liverpool watch, losing to Forest doesn't mean that you've got to go and sell the club. I mean, you know, things aren't that bad. I would be, no, I mean, all joking aside, they've kind of said it's not for sale, but they would welcome investment. There's no smoke without fire, is there?
No, I think maybe they're trying to raise some money. You know, that it's the only way they can really do it beyond, isn't it? By getting new shareholders in, getting some cash in, and Christmas is coming. So maybe if they get pledges of new board directors, maybe, I don't know. I don't think it can work that quick. Well, I didn't think it could, but I suppose if you get half a dozen people come up and say, we'd like to get involved, okay, you can have a 10% share for so many million or something like that. You know, maybe.
And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've always kind of taken the European Super League aside. I've always thought the Fenway Group of the American owners were pretty fair and pretty decent.
Yeah. They've certainly not milked it. They've supported Klopp anytime he wants. But maybe they've gone that too far now. Maybe they can't go any further. I don't know. We'll find out though in the next few days, won't we?
We will. It'll all come out. As Brian says here, very interesting. Lots yet to come. I'm sure there is. Doug, the Liverpool fan, obviously. I don't know what to think, mate. I don't want the club in the wrong hands.
I don't think that will happen with Liverpool. No. I don't think they'll allow that to happen.
I think, like I say, I think the Fenway, they are pretty decent owners.
Yeah.
And
there's tradition there.
Brian said, excellent owners, but can't compete with City. No. They've been so much better than those Prices, George Gillett and Tom Hicks. Yeah. I think he meant something else other than Prices, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, but he wouldn't get that message through, would he?
No. You're getting your senior Ks mixed up, I think, there. You don't know. I look back to when Milan Mandrić sold to our current owners, and I'm thinking, who the hell are they? Thailand, not exactly known for its football, and last time he sold a club, Portsmouth, he sold it to the most corrupt Russian going, and that's saying something with the amount of corrupt Russians there are about, who have, he fleeced the club. You're always a little bit worried, but like I say, I think Fenway would make sure they were selling it to pretty decent owners. Yeah, and you didn't have to spell it out, Doug. I knew you didn't know what you meant. FSG have taken Liverpool as far as they could, possibly. Mike Davis, hi guys, hope you're all well. What you don't know is, when you look at Leicester, and Leicester have pretty much, washed their linen in public here, but we know everybody's been saying to me when I've been doing these shows. So what actually happened to Leicester during the summer? And you're explaining to them about financial fair play. And most fans, because obviously it's not their club, didn't realise. And I'm just wondering, maybe if something like that is going on with Liverpool in the background, and maybe they realise that, like they've said, they've gone as far as they can with them. They need, and we don't know how well their American teams are doing, whether they need money for those.
I think the big problem seems to be, which is why Man United will never have this trouble, and now Man City probably not. They can go on tours and pick up another 500,000 fans, can't they? Who will buy things from the shops, who will do everything like that. Not many teams can do that. Liverpool should be able to do that with their 70s success, but that's a long time ago now. It doesn't seem a long time ago to me, but it is. And they've done nothing really. Okay, they've won the league in a very sort of quiet, weird season. But they should have won more European Cups in the last 7 years.
They should have moved on from there. Everybody says about Leicester didn't move on when we won the Premier League. Liverpool had such a fantastic season. I think if there was an egg and spoon race and Jurgen Klopp had entered, he'd have probably won that season. They won so much, but they didn't sort of build on that. But we wish them luck. I don't mind Liverpool, to be honest with you. I quite like them. I remember the Liverpool of the Man United days, and they lost with grace. That was the thing they didn't lose.
I don't see what the problems. I think it's mainly teams like Chelsea. Chelsea fans don't like Liverpool, and there's a lot of jealousy there as well. But I don't have a problem with Liverpool. I was this afternoon, I think it was. I was reading something. Must be the Echo, Liverpool Echo, but not about Liverpool, funnily enough, about Everton and the sacking of Ralph, and how it sort of hits home at Everton that things are not going quite as well as they should be, and just maybe there's nothing left in the tank financially, because they're going to be building a new stadium. They're going to suffer the same problems that we did when we built ours. I.e., we had no money, we went bust and got relegated. I do fear for Everton this year. I think they've got to be very careful.
I think they have. And we'll come on and talk the game.
Sorry, I'll keep deflecting you, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, that's why I'm here, just to pull you back in. You're the professional and I'm not, but I will pull you back in. We're going to be back and do that straight after. Yeah, do check out tomorrow my blog on the BBC website. Go on to the BBC page, BBC Football. It's the Leicester City page, and it's called Tuesday Talking Point. Believe it or not, it's there every Tuesday. The clue's in the title, and this week I am talking as to maybe the reason, which I kind of touched on, I think before we came live, about why Brendan is probably still in the job and looking like he could be turning it around. But look, let's have a look at the games. I mean, this was a win-win for me as a Leicester fan, Leeds United tackling Bournemouth, because whoever lost was going to be dragged into the relegation battle. We're talking about sort of Rodgers turning it round. Maybe Jesse Marsch is.
Well, maybe, but I mean, Bournemouth scoring goals away from home. That's incredible. I think, again, naive defending. I mean, nobody held on to anything. They didn't really defend very well. So it must be great to be a forward.
Yeah. I mean, they sacked Parker after the 9-0.
Yeah.
And we know, it wasn't just the 9-0 that got him the sacking. That was the reason they were rubbing their hands almost, if you like, because that was the reason they could use to sack him. He was, they were just waiting for the opportunity. And I think most people, I put Bournemouth in my bottom three because of Scott Parker. But Gary Neal came in and did great. I mean, he beat us. After a 9-0, he went and got a 0-0, which is credit to him. Wasn't given the job, and everybody sort of saying, "Oh, he should have been given the job. Why has he been given the job?" Well, they've just lost, I think, 3 in a row. Maybe that's why. And
Leeds were buried, weren't they? Leeds were buried, really.
They were, but the fact that this was almost like Leeds from a couple of seasons ago, where they'd score 3 but let in 4.
Yeah.
Maybe that fact that this is their 3rd season in the Premier League, maybe that was just the experience that took them over the line, because when you're 2-0 up, or 2 goals up, I should say, away from home, you should be trying to do your best to hold on to that, shouldn't you?
Yeah. Maybe a bit of naivety from the manager as well. I didn't close it up, didn't respond. He must have known Leeds were going to come at them big time. I do question 1 or 2 decisions in that as well. In fact, I thought the refereeing generally was pretty poor. Although saying that, I think in our game it was okay, wasn't it? If I remember,
it seemed to be, but then we won. So if you win, you don't tend to notice the referee's mistakes.
But I mean, I think was it Lineker match? They said there's no VAR controversy tonight, but I think Sunday there was. But on this one, I mean, you saw quite a lot of late goals, didn't you? I mean, Fulham were actually holding Man City pretty well.
Yes,
until Haaland came on.
They were, and obviously that's the next game we'll come on to in a second.
There was the VAR on that one, Chris. Sorry, that VAR on the offside for Haaland. What was it? His knee. I mean, is that what VAR's for? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, like I say, we'll come on to Man City in a second.
Yeah.
Finishing Leeds Bournemouth off. I mean, Jesse Marsch, he was dead and buried a couple of weeks ago. And he's been, he's turned it round, Rodgers style. And I think this is the time when managers, like, with Huth and Hall, taken the decision to sack them. And I think Marsch would have maybe gone if it hadn't improved with the World Cup and the break coming up. But all credit to him. Everybody's been taking the piss out of him because he's American and et cetera. But he's getting a tune out of those Leeds players, isn't he?
Well, I think being a brash American's probably helped him, because he really doesn't give a stuff what other people think. He's convinced he's going to be there for the long term, and he's convinced his ideas are the way ahead. Yeah, and winning at Liverpool, I mean, I think nobody would have given them anything on that.
No.
So that, followed by the result against Bournemouth, I think would. So he has given him a bit of time to say to the board, look, I told you I can do it. I'm doing it.
Yes.
Exactly. And then at Christmas, give me a bit more money.
I mean, Leeds they've lost 3 in a row. They've now won 2 in a row. Bournemouth haven't won in 5, and they've lost the last 4. So it's interesting.
That's why he wasn't given the job.
Probably, yeah. This could well be it again. We tend to make judgments very quickly as fans. Brian says Billing has been fantastic for Bournemouth lately. Can't stop scoring. Leeds Bournemouth was a terrific game. The type of match we all want to see. Both sides going for it big at high speed.
Yeah. I agree, but not as a manager.
No, have a heart attack. Leeds are nothing if not fun, says Brian. Talking about Lampard there. We need, they're about sticking with Lampard. I don't know, I wonder if the Leeds board are looking and going, hoof and hole. I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, James.
Everton,
we'll come on to Everton later when we get to that game. You mentioned Man City, Fulham. Well done to Fulham. I've got to say, all credit to them. I mean, they're up in 9th place. It was it a penalty, do you think, at the end? Or would any other team outside the top 6 have got that call?
I honestly don't know what the hell's a penalty and what isn't anymore. No. I've seen hands in various positions where it's been given when it's not natural. Well, I think I've said before, it's not natural to have your hands behind your back. That's the least natural position to be. Yes, I think, James, it was. Where do you put your arms? If you're going in for a tackle, your hand's going to be up here in the air. Yeah. It's going to be because the momentum makes it like that. You cannot slide tackle with your arms by your side. I mean, it's a ridiculous rule. It's supposed to be if it's intentional handball. Yeah. And I don't think they've changed that. I've not heard this year about the sleeve line, which is another thing that drives me nuts as well. Yeah. So I honestly don't know, Chris. I mean, I look at when they give penalties, and then they go back to the monitor. And what's the point going to the monitor? You might as well just change your decision. Yeah. On the phone.
Yeah, VAR is there for a reason. I don't know whether they know what that reason is. James says credit to Fulham. They were unlucky not to get a point. And I honestly, seriously still believe that, we always used to say that, Man United only ever got penalties at Old Trafford. I kind of think that's just generally with the top 60, big 6 these days, is that they do get decisions that others don't. I mean, how many minutes are you playing? I mean, these games are like 96, 98 minutes long. And yes, there's been injuries. But then, I was watching a goalkeeper at the weekend, 2-1 up, goes down, and goes and collects the ball, lands, and then, he's hurt his stomach. And it's just wasting time, and it's all cheating. And I think, for me, I've said this many, many times, the rules need to be changed to take into account VAR. VAR is not fit for purpose, and VAR does not work with the rules as they stand at the moment.
Was it you also said, or Brad, that you'd stop the clock on an injury?
Brad said stop the clock, yes. But then probably we've got are we still going to be playing at 8 o'clock at night if we're not?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I 3 things that I say about VAR. One is that it's not fit for purpose, and that the rules need to be changed to be able to work with VAR. B, it should be monitored and run by ex-players, because it's like me judging you. You're judging your friends, and you're not going to tell your friends, "No, you made a cock up there. Go and change your mind." And ex-players, they will look at that and they'll know, well, that's a natural position or that's not a natural position. They pay them. And I don't get me wrong, I'm not on the lights like Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, but ex-players from Luton, ex-players from Chesterfield that played the game, that know the rules, can do it. And B, it should be used retrospectively. So if you see a player go down, and I use the Euros, for example, when that Italian player went down, and as soon as they scored, he got up miraculously. He should have been booked for that.
Yeah.
afterwards. But hey, look, hey, you got me on VAR here, mate. I blame you.
I knew it'd work.
So what do you think about bounties not being in the?
Well, I'll tell you, you wouldn't believe how much stick I've had for that. Everybody suddenly loves bounties. I'm
I
sticking
love
by
that
it.
show. I love that show so much.
That was
But
the
look,
only chocolate ever left in the tin at any place I've worked. Bounties, but actually, I do go along with the Milky Bar being crap as well.
yes, yeah.
Not sure about that.
But anyway, Nottingham Forest, Brentford. I was so happy again with about 90 minutes to go. Played, and an own goal. Nottingham Forest. They've got more lives than a cat.
Yes, I know. It was unfortunate. Don't you think the Brentford manager's a brilliant guy though? His after match response was, just bizarre. Really, he didn't seem too upset. I'm sure he was, but he just that's the way it goes sometimes. And
Yeah,
it was a funny old game.
yeah.
It was, wasn't it? Brentford. I mean, they're an incredible side, really, aren't you, with the resources they've got. I don't know how they keep going.
No, they are what I would call sort of the modern day.
They did us. They did us at the King Power because their manager made 3 or 4 changes first game of the season, and ours didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the argument that we've always given for that. They made the changes, and then they came back and we should have been 4 up at one stage.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
So you got to give him loads of credit for that.
Yeah. Just going back onto VAR quickly, Brian says that ex-players need to know all the latest rules and regs. Are they interested in learning all that? No, like I said, you're not going to get any Premier League player that's going to want to do it. But what I'm saying is your lower league players that aren't going to, how many... Okay, I'm going to say, would not Gary Neville, who's the other guy?
Phil.
No, the guy he works with.
Carragher.
Would Carragher get a job on any other station outside of Liverpool? I don't understand the fucking word he says. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like having Paul Gascoigne on. Pissed or not, I can't understand the word he says. So these players are getting this, and quite rightly, don't get me wrong, purely on the fact that they're good. I mean, we're also apparently you need to be able to spit well to work for Sky, but sorry, lawyers, but
it's good with computers.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
They're not interested. No, they're not. But you're not going to get somebody that's just retired from playing for Swansea. He's going to get a job. Maybe he'll get a column in the local Swansea rag. Who knows? But he is not going to get the... I speak to Julian Watts, ex-Leicester player. I speak to Steve Lynex. Both of them, Julian Watts is in insurance. Steve Lynex is a builder. They've said to me they would love to still be involved in football and doing that. But no, but anyway. But
the referee's a job for life, isn't it, for them?
Yeah, exactly.
Crap on the pitch, you crap behind the machine.
Yeah, and these and I say you're judging your friends, and I just don't think that's right. But you've got, at least with that result, Nottingham Forest are still bottom, and I've got to say this is how I feel.
I know, it's so difficult not to look smug at this point. Oh
God, and don't forget, guys, at 9:00 tonight, it's the first in the new series. Football fans, the rivals. It's 2 fans, 2 teams, 1 sport. Myself and Dave, a Forest fan, and I'm sure we will be giving each other a bit of jip going into that.
The worrying thing with Forest is their goal difference as well. Is it about minus 19, 20, 21?
Yeah, minus 20.
And Bournemouth's the other one, isn't it, with a very serious minus.
Yeah. There's them. Bournemouth have got minus 17. Right. We're actually down to minus 2 now, but we've conceded 25 goals. Forest have conceded 30. Southampton 24. Bournemouth 32, but Bournemouth had that 9-0. But we've scored more goals than anybody else in the bottom half, so we've got that. Wolves talking to people about bringing a new manager in. Maybe they're going to regret not holding on again, getting something from this game. But Brighton did what they had to do.
Well, Wolves scored 2 goals for a start. That's quite impressive for them, isn't it?
I mean, they've only scored 8 all season.
Yeah, and they've scored many at home. So 2, you'd expect they might have a chance of winning. But Brighton are just carrying it on. They had a little bit of a blip with the change of manager, but they seem to got back into it. And they looked pretty impressive, didn't they, at times?
Yes, they did.
And they deserved it, I think. They deserved it. It was a bit hectic, though.
It was. I fear for Wolves this season, though. Do you?
Yeah. No, they're not in my bottom 3, actually, but I do fear for them. I don't know why they're not in my bottom 3. I think James knows. I've got Everton.
Yeah, I did. That happened, I think, about 17th.
Sorry, James, I could be wrong. Yeah, I've got Saints, Everton, and Forest. Only because Everton, I don't think Lampard's up to it. I mean, he's had 2 fantastic jobs, and he struggled at Chelsea. He brings on youngsters, and I'm not sure.
You're jumping ahead again, aren't you?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I can see I'm going to have to start using the mute button once you move on to the next game. I didn't realise this. Thanks for this, Doug. I've just found it up now that Wolves have actually appointed. Oh God, here we go.
Yeah,
Lopetegui.
Yeah.
Lopetegui.
Is it tomorrow?
Where is he?
Is it tomorrow he starts? I thought it was another couple of weeks before he actually takes over. But
he said he starts tomorrow. I don't know.
Maybe it was after the result at the weekend.
Yes, get your arse over here now. Bugger Christmas.
Pretty decent manager, I think.
Where was he?
Right.
He turned it down in October. The typical BBC. I'm down. It doesn't say where he's coming from. I'm sure Doug will tell me. I didn't realise that. So they have got a new man. They needed a new manager because they looked awful.
Yeah,
they really did.
Normally they play such good. Well, used to play good football, didn't they? Not last year before. I mean, they gave us a right hammering 0-0 at King Pav. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? First game of the season.
Yeah.
No, we won 1-0, didn't we? But we shouldn't.
Well, 1-0, but only because they didn't bring the shooting boots along.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a shock for their fans, I would think.
Yeah.
As well.
Doug, if you or James, if one of you can get rid of our sex friend that's just come in, I would be very grateful. Thank you very much. Apparently, it was at Sevilla. So
Seville, that's it.
Yeah, that's they've done well. Maybe it will be interesting to see how he does. But it is the most important game of the weekend. You're going to sit there now and go, "Oh, I've got nothing to say about this game."
No idea what you're talking about.
And thanks, James. James has sorted it out. Everton 0, Leicester City 2. I wasn't totally convinced about this, but again, we said earlier, you said that Everton were poor, and James said they were as well. But was that down to just Leicester being the better team?
I think we were better, a lot better. We went at them from early on, but when we lost the ball, they didn't punish us. That 6 minutes, they should have been 1-up. I mean, that was a bad miss, and it was Samare and Amati messing about again in the wrong areas. And we should have been 1 down. Then who knows what would have happened? The crowd would have got up.
Yeah,
we'd have been backs against the wall. But we passed the ball around pretty well at times, but it was comfortable. And at Everton, it should never be comfortable. No. We have always struggled at Everton, always.
Yes, we have. I definitely agree with that. They've definitely got more wins than we have.
Even when we should have won, we've never won when we should have done.
So, and we were very kind to them last season because obviously they'd only won 1 away game until they came to us. And we let them have that. But It's almost like been a bit like a fortress, and maybe that's people have thought that because of the fact that they'd won more at home than away last season. I don't know, but that first half, and Doug did the watch along with me. And fairness to Everton, in the second half, they did come out for a bit and put a bit of pressure on. But that first half, we never let Everton into it, did we? Apart from maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, we didn't. But, you know, I go back again. The atmosphere is so good, and it's a lovely old-fashioned ground. It's how football grounds should be. You know, you're pretty close. The crowd are on you. But we were just so calm and relaxed. And that's not just Leicester. That's a bit of both. And they gave the ball away, Everton. They didn't look threatening. Honestly, I thought they were pretty weak. I mean, Harvey Barnes, I spent 80 minutes or 70 minutes, whatever it was, moaning at him for not picking up, not coming back and picking up. He was marking space all the time. But then he didn't need to. He didn't need to, you know?
No. It could have been more, couldn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we hit the post as well.
Yeah. I mean, Maddison was superb, no doubt about that.
Yeah. Oh, God. I mean, I'm doing the team announcement of on Thursday with the England team. So it will be interesting to see if he's not in there, what the excuses are.
Chris, explain to me, is it the 25-man squad? Have they done the 50-man squad?
I think it's 26-man squad.
Right. Have they done the 51?
They've done the 55, but it's not been announced. It was sent to FIFA. They don't have to announce it, I don't think.
Okay.
But there was a few things like Maddison's in it, Justin's in it, but it's not been properly announced. Because to be honest with you, half of them aren't going to be there. Do you know what I mean? So
it's pointless.
But talking about somebody that will be at the World Cup, and that's Youri Tielemans. I mean, he's going to have. We're going to have to give him a goal of the season tournament just for his goals, aren't we?
Well, it's not that long ago. You didn't want him in the team, did you? And maybe rightly so. Yeah, maybe rightly so. But I always thought he was putting loads of effort in, considering he's in his last year. But it was just not coming off. But that back holding position seems to be working for him, where he seems to be hovering around just in front of the back 4 or 5 or whatever the hell we play there. And that's working. It allows him to see what's going on. He can burst forward if he has to. He doesn't have to chase back quite so fast as he used to when he messes up or somebody messes up. So it leaves him coming forward a bit. And I think that's helped him. That's helped him a lot.
I have never questioned his commitment, because when he gets excited about winning a corner for Leicester. So I've never questioned his commitment. I've questioned his form, and I think you're right to question, just because of who he is. Everybody else, he goes through dips in forms, has bad games, but Brendan was still picking him. The problem is, for me, was that he was too defensive. Because last season, for me, this is my opinion, but we obviously had major defensive problems last season with injuries and what have you. And, I think Craig has sort of made the point as well, is that it was almost saying to Tielemans, you watch the back 4, you keep an eye on Mendy or Samari, whoever's on. And that meant that he couldn't. I honestly think if he played like he played last season in the cup final, he wouldn't have got that goal. I think I've said that quite a few times. But I think now he has been released a little bit more. Like I say, he's been allowed to go forward a bit. And I think we are seeing the benefits. According to the Daily Mail, he's talking about an extension on the contract. I don't know. I don't think that will happen. It would be lovely if he did.
It's Daily Mail, to be fair, isn't it?
I mean, it's difficult because we say that about every paper, don't we? Oh, it was the Sun.
Well, Daily Mail more, though. I don't know. He may surprise us. You never know. He's enjoying it, but I think he just enjoys his football.
Yes.
I think it depends how he does in the World Cup, what sort of performance he has in that as to who comes in for him. But it could do worse than staying at Leicester. Again, grass is always greener.
Well, this is it. He's a huge fish. He's a huge fish in our pond.
Yeah.
you look at Drinkwater. You know, there's so Mahrez. In a couple of seasons, he did not. He struggled to get into the Man City team. Now,
Chilwell.
Yeah, Jill, exactly. You know, and these
Harry.
players, you know, let's have a look at Mahrez, for example. I mean, he plays for Algeria, so the problem is he was probably going to get picked because they haven't got that great big pool to pick from.
Yeah.
But if Tielemans goes to a team where he's not an automatic starter, he could lose his place. But I'd just love him to say, look, guys, and we're not going to sell him, allegedly, we're not going to sell him in January, which I understand because if we get 20-25 million for him, we'd lose more than that if we got relegated. But I think he could sit down and go, look, I've signed a new deal, but if somebody comes in that is playing in any European competition, I can talk to them. If any team comes in and pays 30+ million on the table, I can talk to them. But it does mean that you get some money, and that's what I'd like to see him do. But yeah, that goal was just I mean, you know, under control off the knee. Laces through it. Pickford was not going to get any. You could have had Pickford, Gordon Banks, and Peter Shilton in goal. They weren't getting to that.
But you talk about the contract. I mean, he'd be called a hypocrite if he signed a 5-year deal now and left.
Well, would he?
He would, Chris, because that's been cited with others. Fofana signed a new deal, left. Well, he's only just signed a new deal. Why does he want to leave?
Why you signed the new deal?
Well,
you know,
we didn't know that at the time.
He went on strike. He didn't applaud his club mates when they scored goals. But you look at Maguire, and that's what he did. You know, he said, "I know. Look, I want to go to Man United at some point. They're a big club, but you've saved my career. Let me sign a contract extension." So if I go, you will get some money, and that's why we could hold out for 80 million.
Yeah,
so
that went well, didn't
I think it's the way they leave. It is definitely the way they leave, you know. But yeah, Brian Tielemans' reaction was quite funny. That one.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no keeper was saving that goal from Tielemans. They weren't. No. But look, we're up to 14th. West Ham did us a favour, as we'll see in a second. And you know, relegation. What's that? You know, but here's the Sunday games, and we are looking at Chelsea 0, Arsenal 1. Arsenal have got to be considered serious title challenger now, haven't they?
Yeah, but whether Arteta's still on the pitch at the time is another matter. I mean, what is he up to? He's in and out of the area. He's never stays in his box. What did he do?
I have noticed that, which he's supposed to, obviously, isn't he?
Yeah, but Pep didn't at Leicester. At King Power, he was out. I think they stand outside it as a challenge sometimes. But Arteta was taking the ball off the assistant manager of Man City, wasn't he? He was wrestling with him on that. He was, it's pathetic. And nobody did a thing. You got the fourth official who's worth nothing, standing there, you know, just looking vacant. He holds a board up, and that's about it.
That's all they do. That's all they do. But you've got to say, I think Arsenal are doing well this season. I think if they can keep injury free, a bit like we did when we won it, because they've not got the biggest of squads, I'd like to actually see them. And I'll say this because Anthony's not in the chat yet, the Arsenal fan. I wouldn't mind seeing Arsenal winning it. It stops Man City getting it again, because I think he's done well.
They're tougher on Arsenal, aren't they? Now they've got that bit of steel in them that they've lacked in the past. Yes,
yeah. Brian says he constantly breaks that rule. He's hyper.
Yeah. He's on something, Brian, isn't
he? Arsenal were really good yesterday. I really still can't work out why they held Chelsea, but Aubameyang, so far Arsenal doing well, and so is Arteta. Fair play to him.
He's a decent bloke, isn't he? He's a nice guy. But, you know, if that had been Mourinho, it'd have been suspended.
Yes.
Or it'd have been in the headlines in the news the next day.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying, really. Different rules for one and different for another.
I think we deep down we know that, don't we? You know, with with it. Like Brian said earlier, Fergie time and everything, you know. But we got him back. We've got him back. Good evening. He's back at Aston Villa. And what an immediate impact. I mean, Man United, I'm surprised they're doing as well as they're doing because they're in a transition. He is rebuilding it. I didn't think they'd be doing that well this season, but I think the majority of Manchester United fans were okay to say, look, you know, we'll give him time. He has got to do a major rebuild, not unlike Arteta at Arsenal. But Emery, he just came in, and whether it's the new manager bounce or not, but they demolished Man United.
It could be the new manager, but I think Man United made it easy for them. I mean, was everybody going on about signing Van der Beek or something in the summer? I mean,
he's been linked with us, but he was being linked with us when we didn't have any money as well.
Yeah,
so but what you will.
He was a disaster. He looked like he was just lost on the pitch, you know, like a little boy wandering around at times. And I thought, he's not picking up. He's not. The Man United system seemed to make it where the three midfielders that they had weren't even attacking anybody. So, you know, they just didn't know where to go. It was like there was no system in their defence or their midfield. And I just found it astonishing that a team that has been together and been playing okay at times just looks so lost. Whether they took it too easy against Villa, I don't know. You can't imagine that, can you, these days? But maybe, maybe that was it. I say Van der Beek was a mess, and I don't think anybody really did anything in that midfield.
I don't think we're going to sign him.
No, I hope not. No bottle.
No. But credit to Villa, you know, they've got a good manager in there. I think maybe if he'd been given time at Arsenal, he'd have done well there. But, you know, be careful what you wish for, as they say. And then the game that finally cost Ralph his job. I mean, we've said it before. I've got total admiration for Newcastle. I mean, taking aside the ownership and where the money goes, etc. What that guy, he's been there a year.
Yeah.
What that guy, Eddie Howe, has done in a year at Newcastle is just completely, you know, he deserves total credit for it.
He's got Almiron scoring goals.
Yeah. He's made a few signings, obviously, but you know, he's getting a tune where, well, all right, you know, you're only following Steve Bruce, but you know, everybody. I thought he was just there just to make the numbers up for a couple of seasons until they could get to, you know, a Pochettino or somebody. But at this rate, you know, they're in third. They'll be in the Champions League at the end of this season.
Well, you're talking about future England manager there.
Yes,
I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
Pretty well balanced, pretty sensible. Knows what he wants his players to do. Honest. And you say yesterday just showed really that, you know, I know Southampton are going through a bad phase, but Newcastle are just at them all the time. How many times have you heard Shearer on Match of the Day saying, you know, Newcastle didn't look like they got any fight, they weren't up for it, they didn't want to know? You never say that anymore.
No.
They're a hard team to play against now. They
are. It is, like you say, I do honestly think he is a future England manager. West Ham losing to Palace. Now, that was a surprise.
Well, yes, it was. But West Ham have been slowly dropping down the table, haven't they, in the last few weeks? And Palace... I mean, they were rubbish against us, and we couldn't beat them. They were rubbish, but you know, they're a decent side, and they're so quick on the break. They're perfect for a while, like we used to be. You know, counter attack. Palace are good at that. I don't know how the hell they didn't punish us at King Power. I really don't. Zaha had a nightmare. That probably didn't help. Yes. But when he's up for it, when he fancies it, he was pretty impressive. And I think the fact that it was West Ham at a big ground like that, they really put it in. I mean, you know, was it the 96th or something minute?
Again,
Something
yeah.
like that. Again,
Yeah.
West Ham have this habit of doing that, I think. But I don't know. I think probably Palace just got at them again, and that's all you seem to need to do. I think Moyes is in trouble. I really do. I mean, he's
well. A couple of people there are just saying that, but I think as well. I mean, I think Moyes has got to be given credit for what he's achieved. When he took over, they were a bottom 6-7 side, and they were fighting relegation. And they had that one good season, and I thought, oh, they'll be back down next season. But he's not. He's kept them up there. He got them to a European semi-final. He's got them back in Europe this season. And I think he's struggling a little bit, like we did last season when we had Europe and the injuries. But
it's what you do with your players, Chris, isn't it? I mean, I mentioned Almiron. He scored 7 in 7. He's on fire for Newcastle. He couldn't score a goal last year.
Yeah.
West Ham have the players, but he's not making them play. And Moyes, when he came back to West Ham after his first stint, loads of mates of mine who are Hammers said, "Oh my God, what have we done? We obviously can't afford anybody else." But yeah, he proved them wrong. To be fair, but as you know, maybe with Ranieri as well, you're a one-hit wonder. It's about sustaining it. That's where the Fergusons, the Wengers, people like that, the Mourinhos, they have their blips, of course they do, but they sustain it. Maybe Rodgers is one of those. I mean, to be fair, we all gave him stick, and rightly so. But for 2 or 3 years, he sustained a decent level of performance. That's what you need, and this is where Moyes perhaps isn't going to make it. West Ham won't mess around with him. They're greedy buggers, aren't they?
Yes.
But they want something now. Maybe he's the next one to go.
And then we come to the last game. I mean, I did a watch along for it. Rebecca wasn't well, so Doug didn't do a watch along, so I did a watch along for it. And I could not believe I was watching 2 of the so-called Big Six. And I'm not saying Leicester are perfect or we were brilliant football inside or we're Brazil in blue or anything like that. But I have never seen 2 top sides give the ball away so often.
No. I mean, Salah's on 3 or 4 on the trot now, goals. And I mean, he's almost like a training tap-in, wasn't it? One of them. He just didn't. It was almost embarrassing for him. Eric Dyer, what is he on? That's the 2nd or 3rd time I've seen him do that on the trot.
That was an awful. He just didn't connect with it, did he?
No. But you remember the near own goal one as well last week, was it? Where he took a free kick on his box, laid it out short, got back to it, and then back to the keeper, and it just missed the post. I mean, things like that. You can't play for England when you do that.
Oh, he will do though.
Well,
yeah.
There's a lot of England players in pretty bad form at the moment. Watching these Premier games, a lot of them, and 2 of them were in that game yesterday. Yeah. Terence Trent-Arnold. You're right, Mike. I mean, he's not been good for a while now, and it does worry me. And he gave away the foul. Sorry, he gave away the ball in midfield. Okay, fair play to him. He got back, and then I don't know. 9 times out of 10, you get a penalty and pushing the back. I don't know. It's just worrying. It's worrying going into a World Cup with so many players in bad form. I mean, the penalty was a penalty, I think. But then
I think it was all day long, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, James says tale of 2 halves for Tottenham. Tottenham did improve when they made the substitutions, but you can't keep. If you want to be a top 4 side, you cannot play for 45 minutes, and you cannot give the opposition a 2-goal lead. I mean, they did it against. They came back against Bournemouth, but Liverpool aren't Bournemouth. No disrespect to Bournemouth.
No, and Tottenham are playing like Leicester did against Man City, aren't they? It's pretty boring football, I'm told. A mate of mine who's a season ticket holder. It's not great to watch, apparently. And I
It
can see that.
wasn't yesterday. You know,
No.
it like I say, it was just like, am I really watching Tottenham Liverpool here? You know, maybe I just expected more. I don't know.
Well, you should have heard the match of the day commentator. He thought it was the best game he's seen all season, I think.
Really? Wow.
Especially the second half with Spurs, apparently.
Yeah,
Spurs
I mean,
were
they were
non-stop
better in the
attacking.
second half, but then it wasn't impossible. You know, to have how they'd been in the first half. You know,
True.
I don't know. But anyway, those are the games, and this is the table. I would imagine Arsenal, they're going to want to be there to go into the World Cup, aren't they? They're going to want to be sat there for 5 weeks at the top of the table, and give them a morale boost that they're going to get from that. Like I say, the surprise for me there, Brighton are there. Fulham are in 9th. Well done to Fulham. I didn't think Manchester United would be as high as they were, like I say, with the rebuild, but they're in 5th, so credit to them.
Bizarre, isn't it?
You know, take care, Brian. Cheers.
Cheers, Brian. Well, they won 2 out of 6 they've won, Man United, yeah? 1, 2, yeah. 3 out of 6, sorry.
Yes, yeah, 3 out of 6, yeah. And then, of course, we've got the bottom end. Doesn't it look much better now? But until you look along and you realise we're actually still only 2 points out of the bottom 3.
Well, there's only one more game till Christmas, you know.
Yeah,
you never know what happens at Christmas if you bottom. Oh
yeah.
no, you finish 14th, don't you, or 12th?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get Liverpool. That always happens at Christmas, you know.
Yeah,
but
I know.
But yeah, you know, it's looking good. Southampton in trouble. I mean, this is the thing, though, is that despite the bad start we had, we were never cut adrift. And Forest now, they've got to look at that and go, okay, we're 20th, but we've not been cut adrift at all.
No.
You know.
It makes you wonder about this change of management. And I know it has, say, half a dozen games where you boost. So you could get Southampton, get a new manager, and they go up to 13th or 14th in the table because of it. The same happen to Wolves. The same could happen to Bournemouth. Then what happens? You know, suddenly you've got Forest, Everton, West Ham.
Yeah.
I mean, Aston Villa have changed their manager. Maybe Leeds, maybe Leicester, maybe Brentford, who are going to suddenly edge towards the bottom. I hope we've turned the page now. I've got a feeling we have because we're playing with so much confidence.
I'm worried about the West Ham game, but I think having seen them at the weekend, I think I feel more confident than I did before. But
Madders going out on a party again or something, or
I don't know what's going to happen with him. But look, Dave, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome, mate. Always nice to talk to you.
And you. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you. Well, we'll see you on Friday, but we'll see you on Monday as well for the last one of these before the World Cup.
Oh, okay. Looking forward to it.
Brilliant, mate. And don't be not unimpressed with myself. That is 2 shows on the road where I haven't called you Harry. You know.
I'm gonna have to change my name again, aren't I?
I mean, I have got that stuck on my computer. I have had that before, and I've still not managed it.
Me and Brad have got a bet on for how many to the end of the season.
I'll have to start calling you Shirley. That's not so bad. But I loved it. Thanks very much, Dave. Like I said, see you on Friday, and see you next Monday as well.
You take care.
No doubt we'll be doing things over the World Cup as well. So we'll get it sorted. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thanks to Dave there. Like I say, he will be back on Friday for the Question Time show, and he will be back on Monday when we're doing the last one of these before the World Cup. James, 6 points from 11th to 20th, still bloody close. It is. Cheers. Thank you very much. And Mike says, cheers, guys. Take care. All. I'm going to be back in 45 minutes, so I need to go and get something to eat and a drink and rub down with the Daily Mail. And we'll be back at 9 o'clock for the big debate, Leicester City and Nottingham Forest fan banter show. Thanks very much, guys. If you've been listening, thank you very much for lending me your ears. You can have them back now. If you've been watching, thank you very much as well. I will see you in 45 minutes. Goodbye now.
That's all, folks.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
Leicester Till I Die TV. They think it's all over. It is.